How's it going, guys and girls? This is Ketchup and Mustard here once again, and wow, what a decent combat cast I've had this week. Lots of new modes and 3 new characters were revealed. Takeda, Mileena and Jin being the surprise entrant here. We haven't seen these characters at all in terms of gameplay breakdowns yet, apart from trailer tidbits. So this was our first chance to really see what these characters have to bring to the table. Without further ado, we're going to get straight into it and stuck in. We're going to look at Mileena first and see what she has. So, in terms of universal moves here for Mileena, she has the Sais toss, which is a straight projectile. She throws 2 when you meter burn it, and it looks like it can be done in the air. Very useful there. The dive kick, very much like previous games where she disappears, reappears in the sky and kicks the opponent. The meter burn version seems to knock up slightly. We could be wrong, but that's what it seems to do. And the bull roll, she goes under the opponent like a low strike. I'm not sure if it's going to be a low. It wasn't a low attack in Mortal Kombat 9, but it's very, very fast. The meter burn version, she has a different animation, almost like a cartwheel, which then leads into the bull roll. And that's pretty much it as far as her universal attacks go. I mean, it's your sort of generic Mileena kit, very similar to Mortal Kombat 9. The X-Ray is a dive kick startup, very similar, very fast, and does your usual X-Ray damage around the sort of 35% mark. That's it for our universal moves. We're going to look at the first variation, which is Ethereal. Ethereal very much seems to be one of those big piece of kit variations where she has the same kind of moves but gets access to this one significant attack rather than loads of little ones. The significant attack here is a teleport. Mileena will throw the Sai in front of her or behind her, you can choose, and then she'll disappear. She'll then reappear where the Sai has been thrown, like a teleport. She can charge this, so the more you charge, the more she'll be invisible from the fight, similar to Ermac's invisibility attack that he has. And they've said that this can sort of double up as both an offensive and a defensive tool. So you can end a combo, throw the Sai behind yourself for some runaway if you want to throw Sais and play some space control. But at the same time, you can then use, a combo ender and then throw a Sai behind the opponent and get some mix-ups going. So all in all, I think this is going to be a really tricky variation. And like I said, it's just a big piece of important kit that she gets access to rather than loads of little attacks. That's the Ethereal variation. The next one is going to be Piercing. The Piercing variation very much focuses on her Sai attacks, giving her combo strings slightly more range and slightly more damage. Some people don't know this, but some variations do actually give you new combo strings, and this is one of them. She gets access to a low projectile. It literally just acts like a low, as you would expect. The meter burn will throw 2 of them. And the combo strings that she has access to do a bit more damage, and then she can do button combinations to extend those. It gives her slightly more combo potential that she can only do in this variation, and it makes her slightly flashier, but more importantly, more range on those attacks. Not much else can be said there really, it's just going to be the variation for the flashy combo player, I think. The next variation is going to be Ravenous. Although the Piercing variation is going to give her tools that you're going to have to fear when she gets in, Ravenous is where it really gets interesting because she gets access to command grabs. Now, some characters in the game, their command grabs seem to be blockable and then become unblockable when you meter burn them. They didn't mention if this was the case with her command grabs. We're going to have to wait and see, but if that's the case, then it means that she's going to be a complete machine when she gets up close. She gets some new combo strings, very similar to the Sai variation, where she can use bite enders, where she bites the opponent for more damage, and you can do button combinations to extend the damage of that. But more importantly, these command grabs do good damage by themselves, but you can do different button combinations to change the positioning of the opponent. You can put them behind you, you can put them in front of you, etc, etc. This is good for if you want to corner somebody, or if you want more screen to work with, or if you just want more damage. So basically, this is probably going to be her most dangerous variation up close, and if the meter burn versions are unblockable, then she's going to be a complete beast when she gets in. That concludes Mileena. We're going to go straight into the next character now. Mustard's going to talk over Takeda. Now, Takeda's going to be fun to talk about in the sense that he's the first new MK character that we've seen in the combat cast up to this point. Until now, it's been returning MK characters, but this is the first time we've seen someone brand new to the franchise. His universal attacks are a torpedo kick, where he'll do like a front flip. He can do this 3 different distances, close, medium, or far away. He can also do this in the air. Apparently, it does jump over projectiles from certain ranges, which is really cool. He has this ninja dagger, which is a low. You can do it in the middle of a block string, in the middle of a hit, anything like that. The meter burn version will throw 3 at the ground, which you can charge and will detonate. And he also has this charge punch attack, which is like a charging flurry of punches. When you meter burn it, pops the opponent in the air for a nice combo opportunity, but as a standard, does look like a nice way to net some chunky damage off of any normal neutral attack. And his X-ray is unique in the sense that it can only be done in the air. They did mention that this can only be done whilst airborne, but it is a really cool attack. Looks very vicious, very visceral. And let's kick things off with this first variation, which is the Shirai Ryu. Shirai Ryu adds 2 special moves to Takeda's arsenal. He gains a long shot with one of his whips and a teleport. Both of these special moves are heavily influenced by Scorpion. I mean, it says it in the name, Shirai Ryu. He is part of the Shirai Ryu in the comics in the backstory. So his straight chain will pull the opponent towards him. It can also be done in the air, but meter burn version for both of them will bounce the opponent up for a follow-up combo, which did look really cool on stream. The teleport is very interesting though. When done as a standard on the ground, it'll appear behind them, it'll hit them, but this could also be done in the air. But the airborne version cannot hit grounded opponents. It's purely intended for someone that's trying to jump away from you on prediction of this attack. But if you meter burn the teleport in the air, Takeda will then appear on the other side of them again, so he does it twice, which is going to be really tricky, so it's going to be really interesting to see what people can come up with this variation. That's basically all there is to it in this variation. He does gain the Scorpion mask as a visual sort of representation, I suppose, but we'll move into the second variation now, which is the Lasher. Now, something you might be noticing while watching Takeda in action is his normals have insane range. Normals, for any of you out there, are just the standard attacks that are not special moves, like just the standard button presses, direction button presses, all that sort of good stuff. Takeda seems to have the longest range normals of any of the cast revealed so far, bar none, and Lasher seems to expand upon that, making this a very long to mid-range sort of variation, which seems to be about space control and just making the stage yours. So first off, Lasher does change his charge punch into this long-range flurry of whip attacks. If you meter burn this, it will react the exact same way as it normally does. It will pop the opponent up. It just hits a little bit further now. He gains this low whip attack, but most importantly this anti-air whip. You absolutely cannot jump in on Takeda if he's in the Lasher variation, because this whip covers most of the screen by the looks of things. So if you're a character that's really slow on the ground and normally needs to jump in or spend a lot of time in the air, this variation could cause a lot of problems for you. So I'm going to be interested to see how matchup heavy this variation becomes. There's not a lot else we can really talk about this variation, just looks like a complete nightmare to deal with certain characters. We're going to move on to the final one now, which is the Ronin variation. So first things first, Ronin does look like a very tricky variation for Takeda. He does get these 2 pulse blades, he gets these 2 swords, which give him a ton of combo strings, normals, and special attacks. Most importantly, this is the only variation that Takeda gets a projectile, and it's a straight beam, so it doesn't look like you can actually jump over this one, which is interesting for Mortal Kombat games, because they don't really tend to do that sort of thing. He also gains a projectile reflect, which looks like it has quite a slow startup, so this could be more of a prediction. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But he does get this sword mine attack, where he can throw one of his pulse blades onto the ground and then summon it up for an explosion, which can also be meter burned for a combo, but he can do this at any point as long as he has control. So you can do it while you're attacking someone and they're blocking, you can do it in the middle of an actual attack. I mean, there's a lot of different applications for this move by the looks of things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of crazy setups people come up with this sword mine, because keep in mind, Takeda is still going to have these crazy long range normals that he's always had whilst in this variation, as long as Universal. So he's going to have a lot of kit to work with in this variation. Well, that basically sums up Takeda. I'm going to let Ketchup finish up with the third and final character that we saw in the stream, which is Kung Jin. Kung Jin very much seems like the love child between Kung Lao and Green Arrow from Injustice. In terms of universal attacks, he has a flip kick, a single attack. The meter burn version has armor on it, and they said it acts like a wake up attack of his. He's got a straight arrow projectile. The meter burn version will shoot 2. It's very fast, doesn't do much damage, but it can also be shot in the air. He's got a Liu Kang style flying kick, which goes straight across the screen as a single hitting attack. We didn't see what the meter burn version does though. And he also has a Kung Lao style dive kick. I'm not sure if we saw it connect, but it is a sort of conventional dive kick by the looks of things. So they are Kung Jin's universal attacks. We're going to look at the first variation, which is Ancestral. So Ancestral is where the green arrow remark came into play. So he can shoot his arrow into the air now as like an anti-air shot. It doesn't look incredibly fast, so it might have to be like a prediction thing after harassing the opponent grounded with loads of arrows. But speaking of the arrow, he can shoot in 3 different ranges. He can shoot close to him, middle ground, and far away. But the important thing here is that he can actually power up his arrows for about 6 seconds to do 3 separate things. He can do fire arrows that do increased damage, purple arrows which on hit will drain the opponent's super meter, and blue arrows that will stun the opponent. So basically the blue arrows are going to give him a lot more combos with the stun. The purple arrows are going to be really irritating to zone with, because obviously the opponent will not be able to break or use any kind of armoured attack to get in for free, making him this very frustrating to deal with keepaway character. We're going to look at his next variation now, which is Bojutsu. Bojutsu seems to be the most footsie oriented variation that he has, so it focuses much more on his actual staff rather than the bow itself. So he gets some new special moves here. He gets an overhead smash, a spinning smash, and a low smash. I'm not sure if they're pure special moves or whether they're just new normal attacks, but either way they have really decent range on them, making him play this really strong grounded game. But on top of that, he has an air fireball. Now the fireball, he doesn't do it in the air, he stands on the floor as normal, but it shoots from the top of his staff at around character's head height, which means that he's going to be playing this very strong ground game, and the opponent's going to want to try and jump in to close in some of that space. If he's got an air fireball on the screen, they're not going to be able to jump in, which means that you're going to have to really face him in the area where he's going to be the strongest. This is a really interesting variation, I think, because it is completely contrary to the keep away variation that Ancestral gives him, allowing Kung Jin to have two distinct playstyles that other characters may not have. But it's still not the most aggressive variation. That right definitely belongs to Shaolin. And as if Kung Jin didn't have enough weaponry on board, the Shaolin variation gives him a chakra. It's this kind of thrown projectile, and the variation is very much built around that. So he gets to throw it as a projectile, he can throw it high, he can throw it low, and he can throw it like a boomerang. So on top of being like a zoning keep away tool, it will sort of double up as a really good pressure tool with the boomerang function this attack has. They mentioned that on block he can continue the pressure, and on hit he can continue a combo for free. This is definitely going to become the rushdown players variation of Kung Jin, I feel. I'm really excited to see the kind of crazy mix-ups people are going to do, because bear in mind this will can combine with the original kit that he has, on top of all this new stuff he's been given. It's going to be very scary to deal with, I think, because he's going to have annoying keep away, but then at the same time, just apply this pressure straight away. It definitely feels like they have borrowed from this sort of Kung Lao explosive rushdown. They've even upgraded his up kick so it goes slightly further and he can cancel it now. It just gives him a whole new edge of mobility that other variations won't be able to give him, so that's going to be really cool to see, I think. And that just about wraps things up here. As usual, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to drop us a like and subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments below of what you saw. Any of the characters appeal to you, what variations you like, and all that normal good stuff. The stream itself did show off a lot more than we've shown here, be it the new way to punish rage quitters with the quitality, some cool test your luck stuff, and some other fun little bits and pieces. But as normal, we want to make sure we focus on the characters themselves, as that's where the real meat and potatoes of the characters in the game is going to be coming from. So, thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.